Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Latinx Business Podcast. And it's February and tax tip February. I want to go over 1099s and W-2s. It's the beginning of the year. First, I'll touch on the employer side of when they're due and stuff like that and how you assign the 1099s and W-2s appropriately. Then we'll talk about what an individual can do if they, are waiting for the 1099s, W-2s, and stuff like that. First, thing, the employers. 1099s and W-2s are due January 31st of every year for the year before, right? So 2024 is due in 2025, January 31st. Now, January 31st, for the most part, for the last couple of years, has fallen under during the week. So it's a strict deadline. January 31st is a Monday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? And that's the final day you have to get it in on time without any penalties. So as the employer, if you have one or two 1099s, that's great. You file them and you're done before the 31st. If you are a company that has 100 independent contractors or 200, you really, truly want to meet this deadline, right? At any point, right? Whether you have one independent contractor or you have 300, 500. The penalties, of course, do apply afterwards if you don't file a 1099 or a W-2 on time. This year, January 31st, comes out to be a Saturday. So whenever a deadline for the IRS falls on a weekend, right, non-business day, so that's Saturday, it gets pushed to the very next business day, which would be Monday. Same with Sunday. If it falls on Sunday, the deadline is still the next Monday. So this year, the deadline has been moved to February 2nd, right? To not be penalized for not filing those on time. What happens if you miss the deadline as an employer? You simply file as soon as you can. You file that very next day, or as soon as you are able to have all your documents in order. Remember, in order to file 1099s, you need to know how much you paid someone. Same with W-2s, you need to know how much you paid them, taxes that came out and stuff like that, right? So you want to make sure that that information is correct. Social securities are correct. Legal names are correct, right? That addresses are correct. Most companies nowadays will give you a PDF of that 1099 or W-2, and then you can send that off to your employee or independent contractor, right? If you're still doing paper, that's fine too. It's good measure to send a digital version to the person that you need to deliver this W-2 or 1099 to. And then also it's good measure to mail it to their home or their mailing address, right? So that person can say that you never attempted to send it. That's 2 attempts already. You also want to make sure that you issue the right forms to the right individual or business, right? So you want to be able to issue a 1099 miscellaneous if it's payments or commissions and basically items that individuals do not provide a service for, but you are making payments to, right? And then you issue a 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation 1099 to individuals that are providing a service to your company. So you're telling the government, I'm paying Randy and he's providing this service to my company. So I paid him over $600 in the year. So now I have to issue him a 1099, right? So 1099s, anything over $600, you have to issue. Anything underneath $600, the company still gets the deduction. You're just not legally binded to file that 1099 for them. However, the individual on their end, they need to be reporting all cash payments that they receive. So it is their responsibility. The onus is on them to properly file how much cash or income they made for the whole year. Now, let's see. So actually, you should start gathering this information as soon as December ends, because December ends, you should know how much payments you went out. And then you have the whole month of December to reconcile numbers, to confirm, to get new updated addresses from your independent contractors or employees. But again, the address doesn't really matter as long as you send them a PDF, right? A digital version. So now they have a digital one and they can go off and do their taxes. Now, what happens, now switching over to individuals. So what if you're an individual and you are waiting for a 1099 or a W-2 to be sent to you? Well, legally, and W-2s don't have to be mailed to you. They just have to be posted at the workplace, which means it just has to be done by the deadline. So the fact that your employer or the person that you're being contracted by to do work doesn't physically hand you the 1099 or the W-2. That's not a legal requirement. You should contact them and say, hey, I haven't received it. I really need to do my taxes. I really need to present this information, because we do create a copy of the 1099 and a copy of the W-2 when we e-file the tax returns for clients, right? So what happens? So February 3rd comes, you haven't received it. I would contact the employer and say, hey, by when do you think I should receive it? Our service here, when we provide 1099s or W-2s for our employers, pretty fast. We have it ready to go in less than a week, but then we need the other week to mail out a copy. So we provide PDFs and a paper copy for good measure. So yes, we do mail the paper copy to the individual, and then we provide the business owner a paper copy. Best thing to do is contact the employer, because they can more than likely give you a digital copy, right? And that's faster than getting something in the mail. Let's say maybe it's like past February, it's March, and you're like, hey, I work for like 5 different people and only 3 have given me a 1099. I don't know if someone else is going to send me a 1099. 2 things could happen. You do your return without the 1099s, and you report the cash that they paid you. Or if it's a W-2, then you have to do a Form 4852, which is a substitute for the W-2. So 1099s, that's fine. You can still report cash and report proper numbers. Now, if some people try to get away with not reporting the money and then someone paid them, they're like, hey, they paid me this amount, but they said that they're not going to issue me a 1099. Well, that's wrong. That employer needs to be issuing you a 1099 for the amount that they paid you. Now, you as an individual, if you report the $10,000 they pay you, you're fine. Whether they issue that 1099 now or 3 years from now when they get audited and they're forced to issue the 1099 with penalties and interest, they're still going to issue the 1099. So it is to your best interest to file the proper numbers, and the responsibility is yours to file proper numbers at the end of the year, right? Because it's your tax return that you're signing. You can, of course, contact the IRS and get a copy of all your income and all your wages. There's several ways to go about doing that. So you can ask me, your accountant, to call, and only CPAs and enrolled agents can call and on your behalf and get the transcript for you. Yes, that is going to be an extra charge, but it's well worth your money to pay that amount and say, hey, get my transcript so that way we file an accurate return. We're not missing income. If you file a return and you don't report one source of income, then the IRS is going to come knocking down your door, and not physically. IRS is going to send you a letter home and say, hey, you forgot to report $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever the amount is. Now you owe us more tax, right? Because they do run checks. That is why you need to report all the income you made, because whether a company does something right or wrong, so many things could happen, right? I mean, most companies are doing the right thing, filing the right documents for the people that work for them and stuff like that. But there's also mistakes, right? So not everyone cannot be 100% perfect every single day of the week, of the year, of the month, right? So, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And then aside from that, a business owner has so much to do, so many things to do. So if it's like a one-person business, that's a lot of work for them. However, you do your due diligence on your end and you report the proper amount of income that you made, and you don't have to worry about that 1099. For W-2s, yes, because you're an employee of the company, you should be able to get a copy of your W-2s from that employer. Let's say if you switch employers and you're like 3-4 employers removed, and you're already working for your 5th employer, then that's going to be a little bit tougher to get. However, there are still numbers on that W-2 that we need in order to e-file. But best source is always going back to the employer and getting that W-2. Last resort should be doing the W-2 substitute, because the IRS can always say, wait, before we issue any refunds or before we issue you any credit for taxes withheld from you, we need to verify that W-2 is actually correct, the one that you're submitting a substitute form for. So it could create a lot of delays. Best thing to do is be super organized, gather all your documents. A lot of people start getting them in January and put them on a folder, whether it's digital or paper. And the second best thing to do after, if let's say you can't contact the employer, or, there's been situations where some of my clients are like, hey, well, I actually had to leave that job because it closed down and they're no longer around. So there's no way to get a copy of the W-2. Then your next best thing to do is pay your accountant so that they can pull your transcript. What else on this topic? Let me see if I missed anything. No, I mean, just, employers, the deadline has been moved to February 2nd because it falls on the weekend this year. In 2026. And then employees, keep that original W-2 copy if possible. If not, then contact your employer, because that's the best way to get another copy of the W-2, an exact copy of it. And then your third way to do it is to ask your accountant to get one for you. But that's it, guys. That's a tax tip for February, and I hope to hear from you guys. Again, we offer initial consultation, and yes, we do charge for it, and it's non-binding, 100% non-binding. So you can become our client, or you can just hire us for that hour. We will review your returns from last year, see if anything went wrong. We will also review your tax documents if you have any for the current year, and then we can advise if it's like a good fit for you to become our client or not. And really come and ask all your questions, right? Because you hear so many things out in the radio. I still hear stuff on the radio that I'm like, that's not true. And then you see commercials, and then you talk to friends, and then you talk to uncles and family, and you research online. There's so much information that we will clarify your answers for you. So yeah, hope to hear from you guys soon. And thanks for listening to another episode of Latinx Business Podcast, Tax Tip for the Month. Thank you. Bye.